Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Transgender Show. I'm your host, Emily. As always, I am so excited to be here with you, and I'm glad that we have two shows in a row. It's been difficult to keep things going here because of different things I've got going on, but I'm so excited to be here with y'all again tonight, as I said. My guest tonight is Aspen, a queer and trans artist, illustrator, poet, and life enthusiast based out of the Los Angeles area. Aspen holds a BFA in animation and is currently, always, working on comics and new poems alike. He is planning for a dream wedding with his fiancee and their cat Miso, and loves iced vanilla lattes, Dungeons and Dragons, and video games and rock climbing. Everybody, welcome to the show, Aspen.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Emily, for having me on the show. I'm so glad it was kind of a chance meeting and it was just a quick, hey, we have a spot next week. And I was overjoyed. So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it was great. We ran into each other again at a local LGBT event. I had, I think, approached you with the previous one, and I had intended to at the one way before that, before the
Yes.
pandemic, because I was so moved by your words up on stage. You were, if I remember right, and forgive me if I'm wrong on this, you were just a little baby trans back then, and I was just really floored by your speaking skills and the amazing words that you said up there. So I just, you imprinted it in my mind immediately. And I don't remember having quite the courage or whatever it was to come up and approach you. So I'm so glad that after all this time, we've been brought back together and we finally got you on the show.
Absolutely. I'm really excited too. And I know not only this queer event that we went to, but that group in general was like the reason I even got interested in queer and trans performance activism. Like a lot of the people in that group, I'm sure we'll talk more about it later, but we're huge inspirations in even being able to talk about my journey. So it's just awesome that it was kismet. We met at an event.
So I like to start the show with a nice, easy question. We like to lead in easy. We don't get to the hard ball right from the start. How did you choose a name that suited you?
So this is a fun fact that I don't think hardly anyone knows. Aspen's actually my birth name.
Hmm.
I never felt that it didn't match. When I was growing up, when I was a young, like preteen, first kind of getting those feelings of gender dysphoria, being like, oh, I think something's going on. I asked my parents jokingly to call me Ashton sometimes, and I'd wear like cargo shorts and like a backwards baseball cap and be like, I'm Ashton today. and that, and looking back, everyone was kind of like, we should have known a lot, you know. But that never felt right. It felt like a character. And the more I played with different names, the more I was just genuinely like, I've never not felt like Aspen, and I wanted to stick with it.
That's great. Was there anything in that that, like you said you sort of never felt it, that it was gendered or didn't fit? Were there other things that, other than Ashton or things that you thought about, or was it just one of those where it was just pre-baked in?
No, I think when I was younger too, like when I was in high school, I would post fake writing posts under the name Jason. Like
Mm.
I had my first pseudonym was like a boy's name, and it was very interesting. It was like, okay, this is just my character I play, right? Again, like our Ashton character. But honestly, it was my middle name. In college, even when I met my fiance, I was going by a different middle name, even though my current middle name, I went back to my birth middle name. I think it was a bid for feeling like it wasn't trans enough of me to not change something about my name,
Uh,
even though I currently identify as somebody who's only using he, him pronouns, like more along a binary line, just my own personal identity. And so I figured, well, I have to change something about my name. I can't just go with two gender neutral names and keep them the same. And I did after time. It didn't really feel authentic to me to use a different middle name either.
hmm. Yeah, that is pretty wonderful. I do appreciate that it suited you, and that is a very common part of the trans experience. You come out and it's all new, and you're trying to present yourself as a new person, and sometimes it can feel a little dysphoric to still be tied to an old name, which is tied to an old identity. Did
Exactly.
did that little middle period where you were exploring these other names sort of accomplish that for you? Or once you decided on Aspen as your once and final name,
The only final.
yes, did what was there a period of that where you were like, well, I do like it, but it still is kind of pulled
Absolutely.
back
I
to the
think
old
it
identity?
was the middle name for sure. I think like I said, I think it has to do a little with how I was raised. I don't have any siblings, and I was, being an only child, I think my parents kind of always were just okay with the interests that I had. I never felt strongly gendered in childhood, which I do feel lucky. I think I wore a lot of the big sparkly dresses at the holidays and that type of thing, which I'm sure imagining now is probably pretty funny. But the whole like the twill and the sparkles and everything. And for a really long time, it was just like a fun costume. And the dysphoria didn't come until later, until those gender roles were enforced actually by society and school and other stuff like that, and as well as body changes. But speaking of body changes, I believe genuinely that's why my middle name started to stick, is or my birth middle name is Taylor, and so my full name is Aspen Taylor, which are both gender neutral. But I started wanting to be called Aspen Gavin right around the time I started testosterone, because I was about to have a very public job with the school I was working at. And I was very worried that parents and new recruits to the school would come in, and if I didn't have a name that was overtly masculine on paper, that they would come in and misgender me in front of a group of people. And it was honestly out of defense that I even tried it for as long as I did.
So, for your story, when did you realize, not when I mean, you talked about your period as, asking to be called Ashton and exploring some of that. But when did the trans identity, when did you understand that you were trans? And when did that term apply to you? Obviously much later in your life.
Right. I mean, we can get into identity stuff a little more, like we were kind of alluding to before the show. I think, I don't know if a lot of trans folks feel this way. I can only speak for myself, but I mean, I came out very young. I came out at before I turned 17. That was like the last time that I was like, guys, I think this is very real for me. This is what's happening. I don't know if a lot of trans people feel this way, but I kind of felt like I couldn't be trans. It's so few people, it couldn't be me. Like I'm just I'm just queer, or I'm just this other thing. And we spoke a little bit about that in the pre-show as well, that there's this idea that being just queer, or like just some form of identity, is more preferable to being trans, because it's quote unquote less to deal with, less change to deal with for other people. And I felt like that for a long time, that I had to sort of be just one thing or just the other. I did identify as a lesbian for like a cool second, and I found that my interest in being bisexual as well, my interest in boys and men at the time also was very confusing, because I thought to be masculine, you had to be, I was like, well, if I'm masculine, but I still like feminine stuff, and I still like boys, and I don't know what's going on. It was a couple of years of identifying as sort of, I also identified as androgyne, which is like a non-binary kind of umbrella term for somebody who identifies as both masculine and feminine. It was just the term that resonated the most with me at the time. And I identified as using both he and she pronouns. But one day it clicked, and I had a really bad dysphoria meltdown in front of my parents at a really bad time. I was actually at a wake at the time. And I came out to them and said, I think that this is very real, and with going away to college, I need to be able to express this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how difficult was that time for you and for folks around you? I mean, it sounds like you just had like this great kind of exploratory time to try some things out and figure out what was best for you, and then that dysphoria kicked in, that like, no, it's got to be this way sort of thing, to direct you, the final bit there, kind of focus you in. But
Right.
how was that period before that for you? Was that really confusing and difficult, or did you just enjoy that exploratory period?
And I can't go any further too without saying I am unbelievably, overwhelmingly grateful and lucky that I've had the support system I've had. And I would not have been able to comfortably come out or be myself in college or move into men's dorms, even pre-T going into college. Like these are things that I would not have been able to do if I did not have the support system I have. What I will say is that where the nervousness and the worry came in was around the time that I was coming out as bi, which was like 13, right? As a little bi kid going, oh, something's going on, I already started to get a little bit of that parent fear, that kind of, you're 13, like everyone's doing it right now. This is the bi phase,
Uh,
yeah, everyone wants to kiss both boys and girls, everybody, and it was parental pushback, I think, until I was about 18 or 19, until I started first kind of getting gender affirming medical care. That was, it started being very real for them very quickly. In high school, I think, especially when you come out, you're going into college, they still had this maybe belief that I'll explore it, I'll get to ride it out, I'll take my time with it. When, I mean, we know I'm living with this in my body for years and years and years. That exploratory period was a really beautiful, wonderful period when I was a kid. I never, I got the whole Barbies and Tonka trucks experience, which was something that was interesting. Also exploring what masculinity was going to look like to me as I came out. I suppressed a lot of the things about myself, like loving jewelry and loving, wanting to experiment with different clothes, and putting away all of my personality to wear black hoodies and sweatpants and show no skin, and just because that's what you were supposed to do, right? Like that's like, well, if you're a boy, you have to be, or I was like ashamed of my body and all these other feelings. But there were so much of me that if I had had the foreknowledge of kind of, actually clothes don't mean what you think they mean, and this journey can take place independently, like a style journey can take place independently of a gender journey. So there was a lot of putting away my personality to pass to people, to convince people that I was the boy that I knew I was for a time.
So, what would eventually be the thing that was the more difficult of the two for you? Coming to terms and accepting the fact that you're trans and living into that, or sharing that with others and, spreading that word and getting them to treat you like that?
Definitely the sharing. I think there's not that many things that I, as a person, put my foot down on. I'm kind of a people pleaser. I definitely, I do everything I can to make everybody happy all the time. I try really hard to be patient with everybody. And I knew right away, with how bad of, excruciating agony it was not being out, that I was like, oh, this is the one thing I can't people please on this one. It's going to hurt me badly the longer I wait. And that's how I knew. I was like, well, I'll be able to live as myself. That's fine. I'll make it. However, it was the people pleasing of, I'm actually not who we thought I was for 16, 15, 13, 12, 10 years. I have been this other person, and the people pleasing of, no, I have to correct you when you do say my pronouns wrong. And I am going to be upset if these boundaries get crossed. That was so agonizing at the beginning, trying to self-advocate that way, especially medically. My God. I mean, I'm lucky to live here where we have access to a lot of great gender affirming care, but it was already bad here. And my heart just goes out to folks who don't have access to that care right in their backyard like that.
Who was more difficult for you in that process? You sort of allude to, like, you've got to set some hard boundaries, and that can be really difficult, especially for the trans community. Feeling like you're worthy. You spent this whole life building this narrative that who you are inside is not something that people will accept, not something that people will love. And so, yeah, I think we developed this thing of being people pleasers and
Yeah.
going along with what other people expect of us. And when it's time to put those first boundaries down, it can be very difficult. Who did you have the most challenges with in that arena?
And like I've said multiple times, my family, now we are on the most incredible terms. They were always very, they absolutely did try their best from, I think, day one. They just love me and they tried. But it was really difficult. I think friends and family all kind of knew. I mean, as I kept coming out as more and more different labels and identities and exploring, everyone was kind of like, we'll just hang on for the next out and you just let us know and we'll be there for it. Okay. It was very like that. And even my best friend at the time, her parents and even her grandparents were like super, I'll go over that later if you want, but they were like they were like super gender affirming. But my own parents being difficult was kind of a stressor for me. I was very surprised. They did try really hard to only use my name instead of pronouns, which I think a lot of trans folks go through. Like, oh, Aspen wants this and Aspen wants to do this now in Aspen's room. So that they didn't have to use pronouns, which I think in their own way was like a very, it was them giving me a solid try and doing their absolute best. And it did take a while and a lot of education before. I think the big tipping over point was finally just being more honest. And from a people pleaser standpoint, it makes perfect sense. It's like, as soon as I actually told them how much pain I was in, I sent my dad like this huge email with other people's art and other people's music. Ryan Casada's music, I believe, in fact, was on there. And just all like these things that I was like, trans people exist. And this is actually the pain that we go through when people don't believe us. Being able to share other people's art was actually a huge tipping point in that journey.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people. The ability to share other experiences with your parents or the people in your life that are struggling with it really kind of helps them, because it's so focused. We're just so in our own heads, that our focus is just on our personal experience, and with this one person who's now telling us that they're trans, they're different. And yeah, I think it's very common that if you are able to show them other examples, and they're able to just basically see that they're not alone and that this is not a unique experience, I think it really helps them understand it more and accept it.
Particularly, I think, and then I think there's always this like, you were exposed to gay and queer people at a young age, that must have made you trans and queer, or like our parental situation, or like the people you grew up around, or whatever, like that made you queer. And being able to share other people's stories who did not grow up the way I grew up, people who are in rural places that had no exposure to queer people who are coming out in places where it's still literally illegal to get care. Like, these people are not doing this because it's like a fun thing to do and they wanted to give it a shot. Like, this is a very real thing that people fight their whole life to be able to express. And it wasn't just that I grew up around lots of gay people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you weren't just touched by a gay person at one time, and that's it. And you weren't just read a story and it made you queer. It's such a weird and bizarre thought process, right? Considering, and I love what people have said about this, in response to the whole thing of like, oh, Disney's becoming woke and it's gonna make our kids gay and all this kind of stuff. It's just like, how many poison apples have your kids given to people? Like, there are lots of different characters, good, bad, and indifferent in kids movies. Like, why is this the thing that is indoctrination, whereas none of the other things are seen as anything? It's
Yep.
nobody
And
bats an
Adam
eye at it.
Ellis did a very funny little short 4-panel comic about it. It's like, oh, you can't buy this book because it's gay. Go home and watch your kids' movies. And then it's this kid just surfing through channel after channel of every Disney princess kissing their mandatory heterosexual boyfriend. Like, oh, like it's like every kissing shot from every Disney movie that's ever existed.
I think you might have sort of alluded to it already, but in your coming out process, was there somebody that supported you or accepted you in a way that you weren't expecting? Maybe somebody you were like really afraid to tell, and then they're just like, they blew you away with the way they supported you.
There were a couple of folks, and I think particularly, again, like friends of friends, who just consistently knocked it out of the park. Like, my best friend at the time, her grandparents were like, were in their 70s, 80s. And when they would come to visit, they didn't skip a beat. I think they were the first people besides my parents to ever even try. Like, genuinely, I came out and then I like went and visited them. I also, and I gotta like shout out, I had an ex who I wanted to take to like prom when I was like 17 years old, and was the first person. I was using like mixed pronouns when I came out to this person. And then I was like, actually, ta-da. And it was like, okay. And this person's whole family was like stupid supportive. They were like so unbelievably sweet. They were like, yep, their boyfriend's here. And it, it's very just so really I got the experience of like a high school boyfriend pulling up because dad was there like, and so it was just such a fun, yeah, I think those two are the people weirdly that come to mind, like people who I'm not even really in contact with anymore, but their families were like really influential in my trans journey.
What did you learn particularly about what did you learn during that coming out process? Like, was there anything that really stood out to you of kind of what to do, what not to do, what worked, or just something else that you learned that was sort of surprising?
Yeah, I think I learned. Okay, you're gonna laugh at this one probably. One, people have no idea what to say. People have no idea, especially I think when you're really comfortable in your transition and you bring it up casually, and it's not a big, gigantic like, sit down. I have something to tell you. When you're just kind of like, this is me, this is a part of who I am, blah 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 blah. I think people are often surprised and kind of default to the normal comments you hear. And that's like one thing that I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to have to, I think I wanted to craft a response to that. And I'm still learning what to say. I want to craft a response to the traditional, like, you'd never even guess you were trans, or you look so good for being trans. Like those types of comments are way more hurtful, I think, in a lot of ways than they will ever be kind. And I think a lot of people mean them in like a, you don't look trans kind of way. And that's not really something to celebrate. I don't think that, and that comes back to like why I even wanted to be more open about being trans, is there's not one way to look trans, and people will always, I think, there's going to be a learning curve. That's what I'm trying to say, is there's going to be a learning curve with that. The other thing too is that I learned that it's going to keep being difficult, just managing other people's ignorance forever. And I learned that so young, and exact same with going back to that comment. It's like people say things that they don't know are outdated. People say things that they don't know are not as sweet as they think they are. And I think you also have to walk a fine line of like then not offending them back because they meant it in a nice way. And then you're like a person who has taken it the wrong way and ran with it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Of like, well, that was supposed to be a compliment.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a compliment. Thank you. It didn't hit the way you thought it would.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's so funny how in the trans experience, how both of those things happen on the opposite sides of the coin. Those
Yep.
things that people mean to be compliments. Oh,
Mhm.
you look beautiful for a trans person, kind of a thing. Or some of those things are just like, oh, that hurts in a way that they clearly don't understand. I love the flip side of that though, and that's some of my favorite stuff of like when someone calls me a bitch and I go, "Oh, thank you." Like because it's affirming, like you see me as a woman. It's just like it's so
Yes.
weird, isn't it, the way that that works?
Yes. Actually, that's a kind of an interesting side note too, is like learning to navigate that people see me as a masculine person, like as a threatening figure now. It's like not a good feeling at all. But navigating the fact that in a way there's like being able to be like, oh, people perceive me as how I want to be perceived. And now there's this like sad kind of dark turn to that also. It's such an interesting like it's gender affirming to be perceived as a man, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but there's this like very scary aspect to it. And I'm sure like being a woman, it's like, okay, but now when you're assertive, you're a bitch.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh my gosh, she's like so great, but she's kind of like rude. She's kind of a bitch.
Well, and I'm still struggling with parts that I'm still forgetting to be afraid in situations. Like,
Sure.
women have it, that are raised feminine, raised as girls, are just taught and they have so many experiences of not being safe around
Right.
men
Right.
and alone and in dark places and things like that. And I find myself still like liking to go out walking late at night by myself and things like
Right.
that. And
Right.
I have to remind myself that I am no longer safe. It's not something that is in my brain. And I'm sure that's that same thing for you of like, oh, that's right. Like I am not seen as a safe person. I have to, as I'm walking up to this woman, I have to make myself look as friendly as possible and exuberant,
Exactly. Walking, I realized I was like following my neighbor out of our complex when I was just walking my normal. I walk very fast. I have like the gay walking pace. Like I like, whoa, I like walk fast. And I realized I was like, oh my God, I'm like this guy like following my neighbor. So I like went the other way on purpose. And I just realized like that's not a consideration. Like happy to do it so that she feels safe. And also it's not something that I ever even remotely thought I would have to consider,
Mhm.
you know?
How have you been navigating that? How have you, like, what have you learned about masculinity and particularly
Mm.
toxic masculinity and how to combat it? How you have sort of, I guess, a superpower to understand it better than anyone else and sort of combat that?
Um, yeah, I think I love the trans mask community so unbelievably much for our innate ability to rebuild masculinity. And I will never shut up about how much I absolutely adore the trans mask community for that, because so many of us have had to be our own male role models at so many different times, or prove that it's not about how you look, you can be protective. It's not about how you like how tall you are, you can still be a comforting husband or boyfriend figure if you want that. It's been really amazing to connect with other trans masks, like talking and feeling about masculinity. And there was an event, it was like a trans joy event I went to, and I got to see Mars Wright. And Mars Wright has just been such a blazing light of hope in the trans mask community. He put up this billboard. I forget what street it's on. It's in LA right now, but it says like "Trans Lives Matter" or "I love trans people." Like, I'm so glad you exist. And that type of leadership, that type of masculinity is a lot of what I strive for. I think that we can and should have male leaders that are uplifting, that are not focusing on slander, that are, they're focused more on look what we can do for each other rather than look what our opponents can't do for, or rather than like, look at what this person can't do, look at what we can do instead. I think that that's like a very special form of masculinity, to be able to lift as you climb, which is another very famous quote I love.
Wonderful. Let's get a little deep here. What
Okay, let's do it.
has your gender journey, what has gender exploration meant to you on a deep level, on an ethereal level?
I thought about this one a lot. This was a question I wanted to really get into. And I think it's so silly to say this, and I'm sure people have said this, but transformation. I think one of the reasons, again, and I keep talking about why now I'm sort of being a little more open with this journey, is because if nothing else, I can't separate being trans from my personality anymore and pretend like I'm being 100% authentic. I would not be the compassionate, kind, patient, caring person that I am today without being trans. I would not be so understanding toward other members of the queer community who are questioning themselves or coming into the community for the first time, because I was there. I had having to come out as so many different genders and sexualities, and and being in high school trying to figure all of that out. You get a lot of people questioning you, and a lot of silly kids asking questions, but you never know who was actually asking questions because they were curious, because they were genuinely wondering if they were part of the community. And I was not kind to all of those people when I was in high school because it was a fear response. And I don't want to have a fear response be the only response I have anymore.
Mhm.
And I think that being trans is the number one thing for me in my journey, is like, if I don't want to have a fear response to anything anymore, if I'm going to be a man, a white guy in today's world, I want to use the voice that I have to show people that this is an extremely important experience and that we're here and that this is a huge part of my journey.
We talked about your exploratory period and kind of going back and forth with names and different other things and exploring different identities. As you've moved through your transition, as you've kind of locked into the idea that you're trans, have your goals shifted? Did you have like a plan once you realized that you were trans that you were going to follow, and then has that changed as actually lived into this experience?
Absolutely. I think And we talked briefly about this as well even at the event, but passing, quote unquote, and for anybody who would be watching that does not really know much about the idea of passing in the community means that you, quote unquote, and again, this is where it's kind of a problematic definition for a lot of people already, is where you, quote unquote, don't look trans, or you like pass as cis in a non-queer space. And I think that for safety, there's still a lot of people who pursue it. There's still a lot of reasons that I'm not out to every single person I talk to. It's more that I want the information available to people who ask. But I think, I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, your goals, how they've shifted
My
as you've
goals.
gone
Thank
through
you.
it.
That's why I was talking about passing. Originally, my only goal when you're, that fear response I talked about, when you're a scared person who's just like, this is real. For me, it was, I just want to pass. I just want to be a guy, and I want to pass, and I want to live my life as a guy, and I don't want anybody to talk to me about this anymore. And I'm glad for me that has changed personally, because like I said, feeling that it was slightly inauthentic for me personally in my journey to not be more open about it to the safe people who I can talk to and open up those dialogues. But also my goal for transition has just been to now use my art, use my voice to just show people an authentic, joyful, real layered trans experience. That's all I want. And people can make up their own minds about what I have to say. And I'm still shaky on that part. I'm still scared. It's still crazy hard to do that. But in the end of the day, if I wasn't going to change anyone's mind anyway, I would still want to look like this, whether or not the whole world knew. And that's what's important, is I'm looking and living and feeling the way that I wanted to.
How far along do you think you are in your process of self-actualization as becoming the new full you?
I don't ever want to be done. I mean, I think gender is such a small part. I mean, maybe that's weird to say, but gender is a small part of who I am. It's very, I think that's another maybe misconception about trans folks, is most trans people I've talked to are like, yeah, I'm trans and I'm also working on 500 projects, move on. Like, that's not the most interesting thing about me. We just talked about how you taught yourself how to run a freaking radio show. Like, that's amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would say I'm very close to being done with the gender affirming care that I need. That would be, I think, the answer to the gender part of that question. I'm very, very grateful to have a support system where I've still been allowed to pursue the care that I need. I received top surgery in 2020, which was almost did not happen, as I'm sure was the case for a lot of folks. But transgender affirming care wise, I'm very close to being done, but hopefully the self-actualization will go for the rest of my life.
I don't remember interviewing anyone who has not had some form of dysphoria even late into their gender journey. Do you still struggle with that? And in those moments, what do you do? What are your tricks and tips to find validation in yourself and sort of like find yourself in the mirror, or just at least, feel like yourself again?
God, I wish I had had somebody answering this question when I was dealing with it in high school. This show is so important. I'm so hopeful that this will help, folks who are struggling at a more severe level as well right now. Thankfully, because of all the gender affirming care I've been able to receive, I experience dysphoria a lot less. I would say about 95% less than I used to. It was, like I mentioned before, having the agony of like, I need to come out. This is really bad. When I couldn't be called by the proper pronouns. Those early days were the worst. Those early days when I didn't know if I was going to get the care that I needed, the actualization that I needed. And I think before top surgery was the ultimate absolute like worst that my body dysphoria was. And it's just because for so many, just like with so many other folks, if you do experience that sort of dysphoria, I think it's just the relief of being like, okay, now I think I can try to work on the mental aspect of the self-love without some physical blockers in the way as much. I think I do still struggle. I think clothing actually is one of the small areas that I do still have a hard time, clothing and hair. I'm very lucky that my fiance cuts my hair. She does a great job. But if it starts to get too long around the ears, or I can feel it down the back of my neck, you know, I've actually caught myself adjusting my ponytail before, which is like a crazy, weird, like, you know, back in the past memory, muscle memory thing that I felt I was like adjusting my ponytail before, and I was like, I need a haircut. So there's little things. I think the most important thing to remember is if you have like an emergency outfit or an emergency music or a song you like to sing, if you have one thing that you can keep as like a toolkit item when you're feeling dysphoric, to be like, nope, I have to go put on my dancing shoes, or like, no, I have to go wear this nice dress that I love, or I have to go wear that t-shirt that makes me look really flat. Do that right away. If you're home, change the environment, change your body's scenery. It'll thank you. And unfortunately, sometimes the dysphoria doesn't quit right away. There's been days when it, you know, you lay on the bed or the floor and you go, damn, I don't feel good today. But remembering that it will end and it will get better, and there will be a day when you don't feel it as painfully. That is what's important in those moments. Distract yourself, play a video game, have a snack, do the thing that you like to do. If you can't make the feeling go away, at least make yourself feel a little better.
I feel like that's a really key thing for a lot of people to try and understand, who are not part of the trans experience, is there is a physical aspect that strongly affects our ability to find emotional happiness in ourselves. Like you sort of mentioned that of not being able to get to that happy emotional level because there were physical barriers. And I think that's
Absolutely.
something that is really missed in a lot of the discussion and a lot of the, a lot of the people that push back on the trans experience or just don't understand it.
Absolutely. And I think in that vein too, I felt emotionally stunted for years. Like I did not feel that I was progressing emotionally at the same level as my peers until post college in a lot of ways. I felt that the sensual and sexual experiences my peers were having, I was really behind on. I felt like the social and party experiences my friends were having, I was really behind on. Aside from being neurodivergent and some other things I was also dealing with at the time, I felt like I couldn't even be comfortable enough to put myself in the situations that would cause me to grow, that were like healthy, normal things that teens should be doing at the time.
Hmm. Yeah, that is such a good point. That's something that I haven't really thought of, but you know, you've got that feeling of being an outcast, that just sort of overarching feeling of not fitting in for some reason. But I don't think I've thought about it in a couple decades. That thought of like seeing other people progressing at a rate that you're not. Like not only do you not fit in and not feel like you kind of understand things, but then also you're falling behind.
Yeah, growing up in a beach town, I mean, we were 17, 18 years old doing beach days every single senior ditch day or like whatever it was. It was like after a show, go to the beach. After this, you go to the beach. And there were kids my age with chest hair and beards who were taking their shirts off at the beach. And I was sitting there in sometimes a binder and a sweater, sometimes tape if I was with people I really trusted. But it was like I looked like what I perceived to be a child when there were these like 17-year-old boys that were about to be like men. And I was sitting there like, you know what I mean?
All right, let's get happy and positive here.
I love it.
Is there anything that you feel like you've been able to accomplish because of the fact that you're trans? You did talk about, sort of the emotional growth and some of those things, but are there other things that you've been able to do that you wouldn't have been able to if you weren't trans?
Absolutely. I feel like the way that I'm able to express myself now, I alluded to it a little bit as well, being like, oh, I had to hide certain jewelry or hide certain clothes, and feel like I couldn't. And like, even not from other people, but from myself too, feeling like I couldn't wear color, feeling like I couldn't wear big jewelry because it was just going to be the thing that where people could clock me, right?
Yeah.
Well, that ship has sailed. I very much feel like a lot of trans mask people also like reclaiming some when they go through and they get to a point in their transition where they feel comfortable. They'll be like, I wore a skirt to work today. Fuck it. Like, like they just are so. I've seen a lot of folks do that, and they start to reclaim parts of themselves where they're like, actually, I had to let this die for a while for people to believe me or to feel safe or whatever it was. But now I feel like I could not have the sense of style. I could not have even the I genuinely even feel that my art style the way that I express myself on paper and through, dance and whatever it is, I couldn't do the authentic, loud version of the art I make right now without first having asked myself what keeps me comfortable and jumping away from it.
What is your favorite thing that you've learned through your journey, either about yourself or the world around you?
I'm a serial optimist. I tell you, Emily, it can be bad news sometimes, but I actually find that people, I believe that people are kinder than we hope they will be. I really do believe that. And I think if we leave social media completely out of the equation entirely, if we could just delete social media altogether, I think people are actually a lot kinder than we think they're going to be. And if you're talking to the right people, they can astound you in a lot of interesting ways if you give them, if you talk to them authentically enough about what you're going through. But what I will say, my favorite thing I've learned about myself is I actually like myself. I think in the last couple of years, I've struggled a lot with feeling like post-college and going out directly into the workforce, a lot of stuff. I didn't really have time to, it was like being trans and that was my whole focus for years. And then it was like, all of a sudden I'm just a working adult. I got the chance to rediscover that I really like myself. And that I actually am like more compassionate than I thought I was. I take more time for my friends and my loved ones than I thought I did. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't clear my brain of all of the like self-hatred and kind of muck that came with the dysphoria and the self-loathing.
Mm-hmm. And finally, what advice do you have to pass on to young or closeted trans folks out there?
There's so much. I don't even feel like I'm particularly in a place to be giving advice, sometimes because I'm so young and there's so much still I have to come to understand about my journey. But I would say if there's anybody, especially the believing it's going to get better, even against all odds, you got to keep believing it's going to get better, especially if you're closeted. You're closeted right now. It will get better. There will be a time or some person or someone who's going to make you feel like that glimmer of, I got to see who I really am today. It will get better. And I think my big advice, like actionable, if you're ever in a point where you're actually doing really badly, call up especially with all the scary stuff with funding going on, call up Trevor Space or call up like certified queer or trans hotline, get them on the phone and hear someone say your real name or your real pronouns. Make someone have a conversation with you where you are exactly who you know you are, and just try for 1 second to believe that it's going to get better.
That's so beautiful. Well, Aspen, thank you so much for coming on the Transgender Show and sharing your story. It's been wonderful having you here.
Thank you so much. I genuinely can't thank you enough. This has been so wonderful. And I really just feel like this show is special. It's like a special, safe corner that we can have these authentic conversations. And it would not be the same without you, Emily. So thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, y'all, that is our edit for the main part of the episode. We are going to take our break and we will be back. There'll be more. And I will, we've got some of Aspen's friends here in chat. So we will share your messages finally. And we're just going to loosen up. I'm going to get a glass of wine. We have fun in this period. So we'll be back in a little bit, y'all. What advice do you have to pass on to young or closeted trans people out there?
And this is probably cliche to death, but I have to say that you have to do what's right for you at a time that's right for you. No one else can make that decision for you. And no one else can push you into something that you're not ready for. You can't live your life to make everyone else happy all the time. Because if you try and do that, you're going to fail. You're never going to make everyone happy.
I think getting a support network and at least telling a few close friends is huge. It's so huge because those feelings of being alone and not being seen be really devastating. Having the support of a couple of really close friends or family members or whoever you trust is just absolutely huge.
Just find anybody to talk to that you can about this. If you feel like you're trans or you might be trans, or just find somebody you can confide in.
Having a group of friends, no matter how small, or somebody that can back you up and lift you up during it will mean the world. Because at first, everybody is scared. The more you go out, the more you build your confidence in yourself, the less it'll affect you. Everybody feels it and will continue to feel it. And it's just whether or not you let it overtake you and control you, or you let it go past.
Almost every relationship has grown deeper as a result of sharing this deeper part of myself. So I think there's something to finding your community to get to expand with and reinforce, but I think it then amplifies into almost every other relationship you can have.
I think that there's a struggle to transition the right way. Everyone's going to transition on a different timeline, in different order of operations, and as long as it happens how they want it to happen, that's a valid transition. And not transition is valid.
I do struggle with this. I should follow my own advice. Don't focus on like regretting things, like not ever, like not starting early enough or anything like that, because then you'll just go through a loop and just constantly think about it, and it's not something you can change.
I didn't take anything for granted. Every positive change, even most of the time, I swear it was just a placebo where I noticed some growth in places that I wanted growth, or I would notice like really subtle things. I swear every single day for that first year. And those are I looked at the victories more than I looked at anything else. And I think that's super important during the first year.
So much of transitioning is was just waiting on something. You know, waiting for things to happen in your body, waiting for things to happen in your brain, waiting for surgeries, waiting for name changes. Be patient, because what's waiting for you at the end is so worth everything that you felt, all the hurt that you felt, all the anguish that you felt, all the anxiety. It just makes everything so much better. I can't describe the feeling of waking up and getting to be me, this person that I've wanted to be my entire life, this person that I've known I was my entire life. It just makes everything so worth it.
I would go back and say, look, you're going to go through a lot of crap and it's going to be hard, but it's going to make you a better person to go through it, and you'll be fine. Just know you'll be fine. Like, that's the main point they want to make.
You have to be you. You can't hide who you are. You have to be you. And I know that it's going to be scary and you're going to get bullied a lot. So be you, but do it in a safe way. Like, don't ever put yourself in danger. But also, don't cower down because it's going to be hard. Because life is hard.
It is scary, but hopefully it's worth it. And most of the time it is worth it to truly be you, whatever form that looks like. You know, I've always been happy, but I didn't know, and I didn't know peace and joy the way that I know it now. And it was a bit of a struggle at first, but I would do it a million times over. And one of the things that I say often in my lives is, do it scared. Yeah, it's scary. Then do it scared.
Whatever you choose to do, whether it's come out or not come out, transition or not transition, start hormones, have surgery, any and all of it, is whatever you do it for you. Do it for you and you alone. Don't do it for anybody else. Don't do it because your friends are doing it, or don't not do it because your parents said no, or whatever you do it for you. Because in the end, the person you're most accountable to in this life is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you're comfortable with, like even if you're trans and you know it, but you're legitimately fine with not doing anything about it, do that for you, and that's okay. There's no wrong way to be trans. Just be you. The only person you're ever answerable to at the end of the life is yourself.
Your journey is your own. No one can tell you how to transition. No one can tell you what it's supposed to look like because we're all different.
I had moments coming out that I did it on other people's timeline because they asked me to, and were I to do it again, I wouldn't do that. It's something that's very personal. Either you might not want to come out, or you might want to come out, and people are stopping you. And I think it's a very personal thing, and so making sure that's on your timeline is important.
You need to.
All right, we'll cut it there. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Aspen, thank you so much for coming back and being part of the after show, the loose section.
The after party.
Yeah, the after party, the section where we have wine and we just sort of loosen up.
That's right.
Right before the break, I did put in the chat Aspen's website, and I've been kind of puttering around on that. Lots of fun stuff there. I love your illustration style, and I love seeing other artists and designers and how different we are. We were just talking off off camera there that I'm a more photorealistic artist, and I draw off of photos. You've seen my on Creative Block, you've seen the unicorn, the wolf, some other things that I've done, and then Aspen was saying that they can't draw like that, and I was just like, really, because I can't draw a cartoon to save my ass, and they have a really good, cute cartoony style. Forgive me for using that word. I know that was a word you just said that.
No, we were joking about it in the interim that my art got called cute when I was younger, and I had a complete fit about it because I was so upset. And then I remember being like, actually, I think I have a lot more fun drawing cute stuff, so I'm just gonna keep doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. I think it takes you a really long time as an artist to figure this out, but it's just important to have your style and draw the way or create art the way that fits for you, because then it's going to be the best, because people hire artists because of their art.
Exactly.
And so the more your art you can do, the better it's going to be, and the more fun you're going to have, which is going to make the whole process better anyway. So
exactly,
it's important, but it's really easy, like any other thing, especially in the trans experience, to look at everybody else and go like, oh, they look like they do this, they whatever, and it's just like, no, you really got to embrace who you are, your talents, and what you can do.
Yep.
And just know that's the best thing. Whatever is your style is the best style, because it's what you can do. So
seriously, I mean, also especially like I mentioned before with chest hair growth and mustache growth. Oh my god, the way that every person I would come across who I knew to be trans, I would look at them and be like, wow, can't believe their mustache is better than mine. Can't believe their beard is better. And then I realized after a while, I was like, okay, take a breath. Why don't we look at everybody who is cisgender, and you look at their mustache and you analyze. Everybody's got different hair growth. Yeah. It doesn't fucking matter. It's so genetic. It doesn't even fucking matter.
Well, and I think the other, we talk a lot on this show about the dangers of comparison to other people. Being on Instagram and finding trans people was the thing that showed me that I could transition and gave me all this inspiration, but also was the blueprint for everything that I should be and that I'm not achieving. And right. So it was how I fostered a great deal of dysphoria and disappointment in the way my transition was going and how slow things were, all of that. The thing that you don't realize, the really sinister thing about comparison, is you don't look at a person and look at all of the things and go, oh my God, they're so much better. I mean, sometimes that is the case,
yeah,
but
sure.
I feel like it's more likely that in a situation you're like, look at all these people with great mustaches, and look at all these people that have very masculine bodies, and then look at these people that have better hair, and then look at these people, and the person that you're building in your mind that you should be, that's the best of all of these pieces, you're not really realizing doesn't exist.
Right.
but that's the standard you think that you should be able to achieve because, well, they got this facial hair and they got these muscles and all of that. And
You're so right, genuinely.
yeah.
Well, especially because I remember for a while I came out to this therapist and she was actually the first person who I want to say was really good with body neutrality, actually. Like not like body positivity, like I love everything about my body, and not, just my body is the way it is, and it is that. And that's like just being okay with it, And like having to deal with that, but still being like, that was the first time I ever really went through my head where I was like, I'll have my ideal body someday. And then a little voice in the back of my head said, really? Your ideal body is 6'5". You think you're going to be 6'5" someday? And I'm 5'7" for reference. So it's really not even close. So it was one of those like, yeah, you gotta stop comparing yourself at some point. And I think height was the first thing realistically where I was like, be so fucking for real right now.
Well, yeah, there's just so much about the trans experience that's difficult, and to compare and hold yourself to standards of what other people's experience are is such a pitfall. And especially like for me, because I started my transition damn near 40.
Right.
And it's like, what am I going to expect from my body to begin with? It's like my body's like done. It's like we're on the coasting period here. Like, we're not growing. We're not.
She's like, don't do anything else.
Yeah, like our body's like, oh, you wanna do another puberty right now? Oh, here, okay. We'll do a couple things or whatever. It's
So I was actually gonna ask you, is there a piece of clothing or an accessory for you that you either still have or is just like, you can picture it like the day you bought it, that when you put it on, you were like, oh my God, there I am. Oh, sorry, the cat food is dispensing and it's extremely loud. There we go.
I'm trying to think if there's something, specific things. They've got a couple things coming to mind. One, and it was this wonderful experience. So me and some friends were going on a cruise.
Okay.
I had a fancy dress that I'd had for a New Year's party that I was planning on being the thing that I wore to the formal night. But the girls
What color? Wait, I gotta give me some details on this nice dress. I want to hear about it.
Okay. It is the shoulders are exposed.
Love it.
It kind of does. It's got a strap that comes in here, but then it's got a collar.
I love dresses like that.
That
That's
is
super cute.
beaded and bedazzled, so it looks really pretty.
Love it.
And then the rest is form-fitting and long, navy blue. I believe that's the dress that has double leg slits, so that when I sit down and I cross my legs, like this is just all leg.
Yes,
very sexy.
That's the best dress ever. Okay, go ahead. Now I have the visual.
So I had that was in my closet. And that was what I was planning. And the girls wanted to go get their dresses. So we went to Windsor in the mall. And it's just a great place to get clothes you can wear 3 times, that fast fashion. But they do really pretty stuff.
Right.
And it's like IKEA stuff where every once in a while you find something that's actually good quality and will last you. But most of it's crap that'll, like 3 wears. So they were looking for their dresses. We walk into the store and there is a dress on the mannequin and I'm just like I fall in love with it immediately. I'm like, I'm going to try that one on. So the girls, and I wasn't there to buy dresses. So that was the only one I was going to try. They had a couple that they tried and we go into the dressing room and we come out and I have on this dress and they've got their dresses and they just look at me and go, fuck you.
But so gender affirming.
Yes.
So
and this was super early in my transition, and it's just like to have them be that upset with how their good friend looks in a dress, like I
must look amazing.
It could not have been more gender affirming. Yeah.
So you bought it.
So then that is my go-to fancy dress. Typical kind of like I think about inch straps, like and it comes down very simple, but then it's got this kind of cool crisscross woven pattern the bust, and then is just long and black and elegant. So
it's a black dress
Oh,
too,
yeah.
so it's like really
And both of them are this case, but this one specifically, it just like stands out in my brain. Like I have to wear heels with that dress because it's so long. Like you have to wear heels, otherwise it
Right.
drags crazy. So like you just have to be. It requires you to be dressed to the nines, like to go all out. And I have had amazing reactions in that dress, and I just feel so I feel peak feminine in that dress. And so I haven't ever thought to do that in a moment where I'm feeling that, gender dysphoria moment.
Well, that's the dress for sure.
I'll
You
have to
put that
think
thing
about that.
on.
Well, I just remember, so my story was I came out as a cross-dresser first, and it took me a
Okay.
long time. I was very reluctant to the thing that, I told you when I came out, my parents said, "Are you sure you're not just gay?" Like
Just
that
gay,
was the
right.
thing that was in my brain. Like, "Are you sure you're not just a cross-dresser? Like, there's no way you could be trans."
Right, there's the no way thing, right? Where it's like, couldn't be me.
No, no. And I had this slightly different story. Like the typical trans narrative, what you had to be trans, was not directly my experience. So clearly I couldn't be. But I just remember the very, very early days of being sort of infatuated with women's clothes and not having any understanding or connection to what that would eventually mean. And putting them on and feeling so incredible in these fabrics and the way and the fits and all of this great stuff. And then feeling bold enough to go look in a mirror and then instantly the glass shattering of just like, oh, I am just such a dude in a dress kind of a thing. And I mean, that was the moment where it was the absolute worst, because I would have this vision in my head based on how it felt, and I'd open my eyes and see this completely different thing, this mismatch, this thing that didn't fit, and it was heartbreaking and absolutely devastating. And so, that just delayed my transition so long and my acceptance of the fact that I was trans. And going back to the thing we were talking about before about the comparison and the timeline based on how old you are when you start HRT.
Right.
It takes a while, and to get to that point of feeling like, oh, these are my clothes, they fit me, they look good on me, those sorts of things. That was a long, long, hard road.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. So if you don't mind me asking, like, how long were you wearing women's clothes before you were like, oh, okay?
It's a whole thing. Everybody that's watched this show has seen it. I know we have some new folks in here, so I'll go over it. I think I repressed it so much that my subconscious took over one day and just said, "Fuck it, we're doing this." And so I got up and I got dressed. I put on heels and a skirt, makeup and a blouse, and I drove into work, having never done this before. There'd been nail painting, there'd been a little bit of makeup here and there. There'd been some women's clothes that I bought big and baggy and stupid so
Right.
that they like didn't look like women's clothes. They still
Sure.
fit like men's clothes. Figure that one out. That should have been my sign right there.
Right. You're like, what if I just wear these women's clothes because I feel nice in them?
Yeah. But I would wear them in non-flattering fits, like guy fits, so that like nobody would notice. And it's like, well, what's the point of wearing women's clothes then? And it's like, when you really sit and examine that, it's like, it's because I'm a woman. Like that's why.
Right.
But I had this morning, I'm driving into work and I'm like 2 exits away. And I feel like I just snap awake suddenly and I go, oh my God, what is happening? I'm just like, why did I dress this way? Can you still hear me? No, you can't. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. I still have Aspen here, but unfortunately, Firefox has crashed on me for a second time in just over an hour. And that is a bummer. So we're going to go ahead and reconnect while they're sitting there very confused. It's a bummer. I don't want to create a room. I want to go back into the one I was in, which is this one. There we go. And there they are. Sorry about that, my love. Give me a second to kind of reset. My Firefox crashed, and so.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, that wasn't me though.
Nope, it wasn't. It wasn't you. Firefox crashed on me, and my Video Ninja has no access. There it goes. I was gonna say it has no access to camera at all. So here we go. I think it started. There it goes. All right, let's go back to that view. There we go. So now you can see and hear Aspen, and I'm sorry about that. So yes,
So the last thing I heard was you were going into work and you snapped awake.
Yes.
That's what I heard. Okay.
I'm 2 exits away, and I feel like all of a sudden I literally snap awake. Like there's like a physical, visceral reaction, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, why am I dressed like this? I'm going into work. Like, I'm going to lose my job. No one's going to talk to me again. Like, if this gets out, my friends hear about this or whatever, like, my life is over.
Oh my God, that's so scary.
Yeah, it was bizarre. And the thing that I had to do, because I've had a couple moments in my life where the fact that I had a bad person in my life was a good thing for me. And in this moment, I had a boss that was really caught up in the wrong things and not great. And they'd gotten really anal about when I showed up to work.
Okay.
I was on salary, and so I would often stay really late and all of this stuff. But it was like, it got to be where they were really upset about when I would show up in the morning.
Got it. Okay.
And I knew that there was no chance that I could show up late. I knew that, like, if I couldn't go home, I couldn't call in sick, like I had to go in. And so what happened then was, I think one of the single best epiphanies from my life was, okay. And I talked to myself very third person here. So it sounds a little weird, but I'm like, okay, for some reason, when we got up, this was important to us. It was important to us to dress this way. We don't know why, we don't understand what's going on, but for some reason this was important. The only thing we can do now is to honor that and have our own back. And so I went into work in a corporate environment in an office that had about 250 people in it. It was no small thing.
What's one of the bravest things I've ever heard. Oh
and I did my damnedest to walk through the middle of the office, not making eye contact, granted, but with my head up, and without exuding shame, just like, nothing to see here, everything's fine.
Right.
And the reason that the transverse exists, the reason that the transgender show exists, is what happened next. Because I really truly believed that I wasn't afraid that people wouldn't accept me and that I would lose my job. I was 100% positive that that would happen. My brain had no wiring for acceptance of who I was. And so when I started, like, within a half hour, I started getting emails. People were coming by my desk and saying positive things, congratulating me, saying that they were really proud of me, and they can't imagine how much courage it took to come in and all this sort of stuff. Like, it broke my brain, because
that really got to me. That's beautiful. Thank goodness you had the wherewithal to listen to yourself that morning. You said to yourself, okay, here we go.
Well, it was so wild and it was so bizarre and it was so it was so obviously wrong to have thought that I could dress like this and like, what, get away with it? Like what was that part of me thinking? And that's why I truly believe, in retrospect, what happened is that I had suppressed it so much and so hard that my subconscious, the part of me that needed to be out, that needed to be me and needed to express itself, finally decided that, like, there was no way for this to happen without it just taking over. Like, yeah.
What an incredible, truly the bravery that took. And then to, like you said, have your own back that is truly incredible. It's incredibly beautiful to hear that story. I'm glad you shared that. Wow, I'm really glad you shared that again.
Well, yeah, and then so like my company did Toastmasters, and I don't remember if it was that day that I decided or what, but that day I decided that this message needed to be out. I needed to get this message out to other people because I'm like,
Sure.
this is important knowledge. Like I could not conceive of this being a possibility. And it's like, not only that, not only can I still maintain my job and have friends, the people that will talk to me, but people that are impressed by me, that look up to me, that are inspired by this. It's like, this is huge. And so I went through the Toastmasters program there at work, and at some point realized, well, this isn't really my forum. These aren't really my people that I need to get the word out to. And, you know, found Twitch and started the Transgender Show. And here we are 5 years later, still going strong.
That's incredible. What a wonderful journey, and what a good reason to start something. Like, why not talk about, like we talked about, we talk about the things that are going right. I think that that's such a huge part of leadership. Kind of related, but my fiance and I talk about a lot. We've noticed advertisements and political stuff is all ad hominem attack lately. It's just like, even something as simple as a wireless company will be like, yeah, that company sucks. We hate them. And so it's just, you didn't used to see that as much. And it's really nice with the landscape changing toward kind of bringing people down. We talked about positive leadership, bringing people up, like highlighting the joy in the community, the reasons that we go forth with changes that are scary. I mean, what an incredible show. And I'm really impressed by it too. It's a really wonderful vision.
Well, thank you. And I'm really sorry to have made this so much about me. I really hate to do that on this show, but
I'm loving it. Hey, if anything, you were telling me that story so everyone else can just listen while you're telling me that story.
Yeah, and you did have the best reaction to it ever. It was very sweet. So yes,
I was told at Loud and Queer, the one of the events that we were at, that I should be a professional hype person, that I should just go to people's parties and just be like, wow, this is cool. What you got going on here is really neat. It's why I came up with the moniker, like, life enthusiast. It's because I couldn't think of something like, yeah, I'm an artist. Yeah, I'm all this other stuff, but I just really love people. Like, as much as it's actually, for neurodivergent reasons, we kind of touched on as well. It's hard for me to be around people sometimes, but I love people, and I love hearing about people's stories so much, and getting to hear like that authentic thing that you went through. It's only something that you could have gone through to get this amazing, unique result. It's fascinating to me. It's like one of my most favorite things in the world is talking to people about their life. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons we've been able to sustain this show for so long. And I really haven't tweaked the format that much, having that set of questions that we go through. I don't know. I don't know if it's great TV because it's very repetitive, but I just love this idea that you can pop into any episode or a group of episodes, and you get to compare apples to apples, experience to experience, because people are answering the same questions,
right,
though they have their own spin on it. And
right.
And as much as themes repeat in the trans experience, everybody does have their own unique spin on it, and it's just great to see that. I think it's super valuable, even after this is what is it, year one, episode 178.
Whoa! Oh my God, that's amazing.
That there's still so much to hear and so much value to take from each individual story. So yeah, I just love to do it.
I mean, especially because any type of radio show is like, the whole point is to show the incredible diversity that exists within any given. You could do, like, if your subset is the whole world, you're going to get an insane amount of diversity. But I think people are often surprised you can get that same amount of diversity in the trans community, the queer community. Like, your group of people has that much diversity in it too. And getting to hear all these trans stories about different ages, different realizations, different journeys, like going back and forth, people who are changing and growing their whole lives. That's one of the most beautiful things about being trans, is you actually are so familiar with the experience of growing and changing.
Yeah.
That was one of the other things I was going to mention too. Like, as much as I did feel like I was really behind my peers like I mentioned that in the episode, like feeling behind with my peers and not kind of growing up at the same rate as them. I also feel like in a much different way, I'm an expert on myself. Like I could tell you everything about me now. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful for that. Like finding out that I do actually like myself, as I mentioned, is I actually feel like I can answer questions deeply. Or in like my poetry journey, I have a lot of poems now about change being a good thing, and you look back and change was always a bad thing for me in my poetry journey. And I think
Or at least very
insight
scary,
like
at
that.
least terrifying.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I have a poem called Change Pains that I'm putting in my next book, and it's basically about if you were growing into a tree, the seeds of change kind of being like, well, we want to go, we want to be released now, we want to have people see us as our real self, and you sometimes forget you were also a seed, you know. And so you like believing that change is always going to be the scariest thing to happen, and that if you do let your seeds go, if you do let those ideas out into the world, it's always going to be hard and scary, like you were talking about. There's not going to be acceptance, there's not going to be joy. But forgetting, like, we all have been through that. Like we've all been through a time when something was really, 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 really scary, and we probably made it out the other side okay.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny because from that point, my journey has still at every step been marked by fear.
Right.
I have been afraid of literally every next step. And it's so strange at this point to have been there and to have hesitations. I still haven't changed my name legally and some other things, but that's more of a executive dysfunction, ADHD, form phobia sort of thing.
Real. So real.
But to go from this place of being of always feeling like an outcast, always feeling like you don't belong, even before you understood why. Fearing change, fearing anything that like made you stand out. And then coming to this place of self-acceptance and self-love, embracing change, looking forward to change. And I'm at this place right now where I have found this strength in doing the hard thing. I've had a lot of difficult things happen in my life recently, and I'm just amazed at my ability to have really difficult conversations. I think we were talking about it before the show, but setting boundaries and finding myself, finding who I am, what I like, what I don't like, what I can put up with, and what I don't want to put up with.
Right.
And yeah, those are all things that I didn't have access to before accepting and finding that the truth that I am valuable, that I am worth it. I'm worth boundaries. It's so interesting to look back and see how hard it was to get to that point, considering how obvious and important it is now.
Right, especially the believing that you're worth actually receiving that self-love. Like we talked about, like dysphoria is such a mind trick sometimes also about believing like it'll never get better. The same thing with conditions like depression. It's like, oh, if it'll just never get better, I'm not worth putting the effort into then. Like if I'm never going to feel better, if it's never going to go away, why would I pay attention to this?
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you're like, no, you know what, fine, fuck it. Maybe it'll never get better, but maybe I'll buy the dress anyway. Maybe it'll never get better, but I'm going to get the haircut, you know, like whatever. Everyone's got the haircut story. I swear to God, everyone's got the haircut story. Haircut story. I remember, oh my God, there are actually some friends in the chat that might remember this. I was trying to get to like that phase where I could like have a boy haircut, but I kept trying to like be like, oh, this is like a girl's haircut. But it would be like skin shaved sides and like a mohawk like that long, but just that I never styled. So it would just be like a flop of like I didn't pay attention to my curls. Also, my curls definitely came out after I started HRT, but they were a little wavy, and I just didn't take care of my hair because when you're not taking good care of yourself, you're not taking care of your hair either. And so my hair was just like a floppy mess of like skin shaved sides. And I remember every time I'd go to my mom's awesome, amazing barber, he put up with so much from me. But I would be like, can you go shorter? Can you go a little shorter on the back? Can you go a little shorter on the sides? Can you go? Until finally I got the haircut, you know. Oh, I was gonna ask. We talked about clothing, but did you ever read a book or like something that wasn't strictly informative, something like a movie or a book that was like, oh, this was like a meaningful, either a character that you interpreted as being trans or a character that was like legitimately trans in the novel or the story? There's not that many, so I do like hearing what people have to say.
No, I didn't have any exposure to it, and this is gonna. I mean, I'm not super embarrassed about that. I am embarrassed in the way you frame the question because I'm taking it in a different way. But I've met plenty of people that have the same experience. But as far as reading something that sort of resonated with me, it was like Hustler and literotica stories.
No, wait, that's total. I get it. I get it.
And I mean, I still, even at that point, didn't see myself, but I saw something that drew me in a way that at that time I didn't understand.
Right.
And scared the shit out of me, to use some French words there. It was really disturbing how much I was drawn to these things, and seeing these characters that were forced into feminization and forced into doing other things that I didn't at the time fully realize that I wanted to just be my life.
Right.
And looking back, it makes so much sense. Like, it was too scary to make these changes, to do these things, to think about myself in these ways and put myself in these situations.
Absolutely.
That idea of being forced into it was this.
It was the only safe spot, maybe?
Yes, it was the only safe way of thinking about it. Like, oh, no, I didn't do it.
I didn't want to be here.
No,
you did
no.
this.
No, it's not me. Like, no, like I don't own
100%.
this.
I can totally see that.
It's somebody else that's perverted and disturbed and has all these problems. Like, it was their doing that got me here. Like, so not even vaguely what you were talking about, but
hey, I mean, maybe it comes out of the absence of having like literature that is by and for trans people.
Well, and like I said, like it makes sense now. My only access to that as a concept was the idea of being forced, because there's no way in my life I could make that as a choice, that I could be accepted, that would work out for me. If I had a partner or some person that made me go through that, but then also held me in that space. That's the subtle thing that I don't think I ever realized until this absolute moment about that is, yes, it's someone forced you to doing something, but even still in that, even when
it's still consensual,
even when it was something that was against sort of what the character really thought they wanted or whatever, there was being held in the space. So the person was forcing you to do this, but in a way that like they were holding you in it. There was acceptance, at least from that one person.
And you're still being seen as this character or this situation that you're in, and they're holding you hopefully in a way that is, again, like consensual and controlled, right?
Yeah. Well, the consent comes from the fact that, like, as someone reading this, wanting that experience of being
100%.
forced into something that I, again, bunny quotes, didn't want.
Right, exactly.
The framing of it, of having this person at least that in their participation thus was giving their acceptance of you in this, and suggesting that maybe this as a concept was something that could be possible for you.
There was somebody out there who would love that part of life for you. Right, exactly.
And so that was my first access to a character, as you sort of put it, as you intended, that could be this thing that deep down I wanted to be.
I don't think that that's a mistake a mistaken answer for what I asked at all. I feel genuinely like if that is where you saw yourself, I think that makes sense. It's like we said, I think there is and really was a lack of genuine representation, and to be able to be like, hey, this is where the concept was safe for me, and that makes perfect sense. There was a book. The reason I asked that question is because one of the books that I read coming out and like early, it was a book called Beautiful Music for Ugly Children. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's like it's just a novel that I don't even know where. I feel like I probably did the thing where like as soon as I realized I was like, oh, I'm trans, this is for real. I went on some forum somewhere and went, like Trevor Space, and I was like, list of trans books, main characters trans books, and tried to find something. And it was actually about a young guy who was in high school who was like going away to college, so was very right in my age group, who he was not on HRT and he had a crush on his best friend, and he was like, he wanted to be a radio jockey, and he got really popular in his town passing as a young man as a radio jockey. And I just remember like viscerally how it felt. I was like, this is my life. I'm this guy. Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be this cool. And I remember vividly from that wanting to be like, feeling like the key to that was I had to be a radio jockey. And I actually had a radio show in college.
Nice.
And no one knows that it was probably because of that book.
That's so cool.
Very funny.
Yeah. There was something that I wanted to ask you. Oh, I mean, this is some very tangential stuff. Let's watch the ADHD just kick in full gear here. Something that I thought of earlier.
Sure.
We were talking about the exploratory phase and getting into, exploring who you are and finding who you are and finding your comfort in that. Now, what I had when I tried on some of these clothes, were those moments, like, especially like getting into makeup and things like that, where I'd get all dolled up, look in the mirror, and still see a dude. And it took a while. Maybe it was HRT, maybe it was something else. Maybe it was just like a gradual acceptance of the fact of who I was and all of that. But eventually I started to find moments where I would walk past the mirror, not even with makeup on, like maybe even a little bit of stubble, like not put together at all. I would look in the mirror and I would see Emily. I'd be like, oh shit, there you are. Like, it was like she was elusive at some times when I really wanted to see her, and all I could see were the masculine features and the masculine things. And the most random, uncontrollable moments, I would look in the mirror and I would see Emily, and it would be just so wonderfully euphoric and kind of confusing because I didn't have control over it. Was that something that you have experienced as you've gone through your journey and trying to find your masculinity?
Absolutely. It's so, like, you even saying that, I could hear like the little like wind chimes of like, oh, I feel this memory, like that exact feeling. I just got a shiver down my back because it really, I remember that. I remember like begging every day for the HRT to have worked a little harder than the week before, to be like, fuck, I hope I see what I see, and being like, okay, well, still no mustache. Again, this is a big issue for me. Apparently, is the mustache. Not struggling too much anymore, luckily, but just
on point, absolutely on point. I gotta say, your facial hair game, the choices that you've made with it and how to style it, like perfect. I love that you've got the mustache and the little the flavor saver there, but then the little bit of the stubble, like the sort of 5 o'clock shadow version for the rest, so that it's there but subtle. I think you're nailing it. Chef's kiss.
That is so kind of you. Val Kilmer in Tombstone was the
Oh
love of
my
my
God,
life
you're
when I
it.
was
That's
16.
it. That's it. Oh yes. Oh.
Chat, look up Val Kilmer Tombstone movie. Okay. Hallelujah. All right, that's all I have to say about that.
Oh, yeah. Enough said.
Thank you. So
But
that's very kind of you, because he was my facial hair inspo when I was growing up. I was like, if I could only look like him.
nailing it, and what an inspiration! What a role model to follow. Like I think that you have picked a perfect one and followed it, and like, yeah, you're totally killing. A little bit of since you've got the darker hair, a little bit of Johnny Ringo too, because there was a lot of similarity there.
I'll take it.
Equally hot. Like, yeah.
Thank you. I'm so gender affirmed. I appreciate you. But yeah, I think there were moments where I didn't feel like that. Yeah, I didn't feel like this guy. I didn't feel, and it was it was those moments in the mirror. It was the sides of buildings for me often when I really wasn't expecting it. Being in LA, there's a billion shiny mirrors you walk by when you're out there on the streets, or people's car windows that are tinted. And I remember a couple of times where especially when I was having voice dysphoria, still pretty bad, and not feeling like I sounded like myself. There was a couple of times when I would like catch a glimpse of myself in a car window or a building with my friends who were predominantly very female presenting. And I would go, oh my God, who the hell is that? And it was a good thing. It was like, oh my God, I look like that to people. I think I actually do. And it was like a wake up call, being able to be like, oh shit, I think there's been changes that I haven't noticed because I've just been so heads down for so long.
All right, we've got Tombstone chat going on here. Becoming Serena says the references are going over my head. I'll have to look him up. He's been trying to get me to watch Tombstone, and I'm responding here. Oh my God, you must watch Tombstone! Such a wonderful, fun Hollywood movie. If I can spell it right, and I'm gonna do the rest here because yes, oh my God, it's one of my favorites. I remember seeing it in the theater and just me and my friends being like so excited about it. It was so great. Very, very little historic accuracy.
Oh God, of course not. Are you kidding me?
But wonderful, wonderful Hollywood action story. Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell both are amazing. Sam Neill. I at the time, and you know, God rest his soul, I was never a fan of Bill Paxton, but anyways, Sam Neill, Val Kilmer, oh my God. I mean, hot and just absolutely wonderful in that. And
just killed the role, just did an amazing job.
Yeah. And then Kurt Russell. And I believe Johnny Ringo was one of the Beans, like I want to say Michael or something, but really wonderfully acted movie, great script. Just pure American action cowboy western film.
Oh yeah, and like you said, great. It's truly like a Hollywood movie. It's like they've got the rain scenes in the street, they've got the gunfights, they've got oh God,
the you know, riding in the sunset and all of the things, the typical like Young Guns like riding and shooting kind of thing. Like it has it all. It has all the elements.
Really, it does. And you want to talk Kurt Russell too? I'm trying. So Becoming Serena in the chat is my fiance, and I actually have been trying to get her to watch The Thing as well, because talk about a Kurt Russell movie.
Sorry, I can't help you there. I probably have seen it, but I don't remember.
Oh no, you know what? Okay, I just really like it because it's such a good horror movie. It's like such a wonderful classic use of like practical effects.
And this is where you lose Emily, unfortunately. Horror. Yeah, I just need to be entertained in my movies, and for some reason the horror doesn't do it. You know, a lot of the suspense doesn't really appeal to me. I love comedy. I love the action movies. I love a good western. And so yeah. Sorry, you lost me there.
Okay, so where along the lines of action are we talking? Like again, because I work for a movie company, so I'm familiar with only the action movies that they put out. But so what genre action movie are we talking about?
So I mean, Jurassic Park is amazing. I loved being a car girl, coming by it honestly from the very, very beginning. I did get sucked up in the early Fast and the Furious
I knew you were gonna say it.
Set there. Fast and Furious 2 is absolute and utter complete garbage. Fast and the Furious 3 saved it. Tokyo Drift somehow rebooted the franchise. That's the reason we have Fast and the Furious 12 is Tokyo Drift. It was an odd one in the mix, and it's the reason the rest of the movies exist, because it saved the franchise.
It's the only one I actually know the name of, except for Too Fast, Too Furious, which apparently was the bad one. So,
there were so many bad ones. Let's see.
You like Die Hard?
Die Hard's a great one. Yes.
Is it a Christmas movie? That's what I need to know. Do you consider it a Christmas movie?
I mean, yes. If it's set in
Yeah,
Christmas,
right.
it's a
Okay.
Christmas movie. Yeah. Yes, it's a Christmas movie. Let's see. But I also I came late into it, but the Wes Anderson stuff.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
an absolute crazy nut Disney girl.
Okay. Okay, what era Disney? Now you have to give me your like. You
Okay.
don't have to rank them, but give me like some Disney movies here.
There are 3.
Okay.
There are 2 that I could watch literally every week, if not multiple times a week. That is the animated Fox Robin Hood. Yes, I love. I'm blanking on his name. Why am I blanking on his name? The guy that played Baloo, uh, Little John,
Yes.
and Thomas O'Malley the Alley Cat.
That
God,
guy
I
is
can't remember.
amazing.
I'm blanking on his name. Love pretty much anything that he's in the Disney in the Disney canon. He just did such a great job. But Robin Hood, I could absolutely watch over and over again. Love that movie to death.
Oodle lolly golly, what a day! I
Ooh,
love that.
Yeah. We were actually, my girlfriend and I were singing that yesterday. And then today, the other one is Mary Poppins.
You're not gonna believe this. I saw that for the first time, I think, at the end of last year.
Wow. Yeah. I just remember that as a kid. I loved it. It still holds up amazingly. I love the character arcs and the comedy and the fantasy of it. That it's such a perfect movie.
And talk about the showmanship that you needed to be an actor during that time as well. I mean, Dick Van Dyke dances his ass off in that movie. I mean, for like minutes at a time, like long, laborious, choreographed dance scenes. And it's like, this is so, and he's an amazing actor too.
Yeah.
It's not even just that it's that. It's like he does these insane acrobatic dance scenes, and then he'll be like really amazing and serious on screen. And it's amazing that he can do both.
Yeah. He covers quite an emotional range in that movie, and it's great to have him as sort of, he's the thread that sort of weaves the whole movie together. You know, as the kids are discovering Mary Poppins magic, and then when things go bad with their dad and everything, like he's always kind of like linking everything together. And it's just wonderful to have him anchoring that, and it's just so much fun. I love that movie. And then
I definitely wouldn't have even discovered if it wasn't for my fiance. She's getting me to watch all these classics. She's like, I'm telling you, you're gonna watch this and go, why didn't I watch that sooner?
Well, then, goddamn it, you need to fire up Tombstone now, because
yes.
Turnabout's
Get over
fair
here.
play.
Get the TV going.
The other one, another one that I could watch a lot, maybe not as much as the other two, is actually the sort of, I consider it the poor man's Mary Poppins. Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
I've never seen it.
It is a lesser. So the thing is it actually is sort of, in a way, kind of a poor man's Mary Poppins. Walt had promised his kids he would make Mary Poppins as a movie. When P.L. Travers was her name, I believe, refused, like, to the death clutch, would not let them have the rights to the movie. They started working on another children's book, a series. The Bed Knobs and Broomsticks are 2 books that are put together. I forget what the original books were, but they started working on that. Well, he finally got the approval, and they made Mary Poppins before he passed away. And then afterwards, they weren't able to get Mary Poppins moving forward because she wouldn't let it go, even though they had already kind of started. So then they focused on Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. They got the approval to do Mary Poppins. They focused everything on that, and Bed Knobs got shelved. Well, after Walt passed away, they needed something, so they revived that and started putting it together. And I love it. It's cute and quirky and has a lot of great things. It's got some of the ideas of Mary Poppins, though it's a little more clumsily executed. The funny thing that I find about that movie is it is very kind of kid heavy as well. They've got child actors in there.
It's another one where it's live action and animated as well.
Live action and animated. Just there's one scene that's executed fairly well, and the others, like, I don't know, the lagoon scene just doesn't do it for me. But otherwise, I love it. The kids, I find the kids really difficult to love. This is one of those things, I don't know what it is. They work really well together. So the premise is London's being bombed. They are evacuating children. You know, children have either lost their parents are at war, whatever. They're either orphaned or kind of like temporarily orphaned. So they took them out to the countryside and found families for them to care for them while the war was going on. And so there are these 3 Cockney, you know, living on the streets kids. And so they're pretty abrasive, honestly. You just, it's just really tough, even though like the girl and the younger son, the younger boy try, like they have a hard time winning your heart. And it's just like, that's one of the things, because the 2 kids in Mary Poppins, like, you just love them from the start.
And yeah, that's the thing, right? Especially if you're trying to write a knockoff kind of, or like work on a knockoff, first of all, it's already, you're like, ooh. But then when you make Mary Poppins anyway, and you still come out with kind of a, ooh, like secondary version of it, it's pretty funny. I had a hard time believing it was going to stand up to Mary Poppins as it was, but not even having like a lovable main cast is going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is it's Angela Lansbury.
Okay, I had no idea.
And I'm blanking on his name too. But the dad from Mary Poppins, George Banks.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm forgetting his name. Tomlinson. I forget his first name, but Tomlinson is the lead male in this one. And in this one, he's like a shyster. And it's a fun dynamic. It's really cute.
That's a lot of fun.
And, yeah. I think I like it mainly for its like sort of like underground, sort of more B-movie aspect thing to it. It's not the super polished one. It's yeah, so that one's when we were kids, we you know, we got a VHS recorder,
of course,
you know, in the late 80s or in probably mid 80s. And so, you know, we would record things. One of the few that we got off the Disney Channel were Bedknobs and Broomsticks and Robin Hood. So those were the 2
that
we had
explains
access
your
to. Yes.
inherent love of those films, of course.
Yeah, that's why they have such a strong place in my heart. And like I said, yeah, you know, they always have the desert island question of like, what could you just watch over and over again? And it's just like, of the 2, Robin Hood and Mary Poppins, if I had to choose one, I think it would take me a minute to kind of choose between
to actually decide.
So much. Yeah.
My stepmom loves the Robin Hood movie, especially because she loves chickens, and the way the chickens are animated in that movie. You know exactly what I'm talking about. They have like the big ladies with their skirts, and Marianne, and they like run. They're just such a character, and we owned chickens for a while. That side of my family. And truly just watching them running around the yard with their crazy big puffy pantaloon looking backsides, it was like the funniest. After she actually owned chickens, she was like, "Oh, that's like my favorite movie."
Well, yeah, and that's the thing about I think that's something that's lost in how they've kind of wiped out the animation team and then kind of brought it back, and then all this sort of stuff is like, I don't think that they pay the attention to those things that they did before. Like they used to go and sit for hours at zoos and farms and not only draw these animals but study them, and
I mean go on trips to the countries they were going to be drawing, you know.
And so like you kind of lose the appreciation for how masterful it was that they were able to incorporate in animation, in drawing still things one at a time, the actions of a real chicken and the actions of the real actress, you know, and that's incredible. I don't know if you've come across this. There is video on YouTube of the tea party from Alice in Wonderland.
Is it reference footage?
Yes.
Yes, I have. God, just the I love animation reference footage so dearly.
And
The most
Ed Wynn, I mean, he's just a masterful actor, and I'm blanking on the guy who played the March Hare, but to watch them and just to see the animated characters in them, because obviously it's animated off of their action,
right,
but to see
right.
them do everything live, and it's just like, well, that was the movie. They just
They
drew
just
that
did it.
a little more cartoony. It's pretty incredible to watch, and
I have some pretty funny footage of me from college, like making my own reference footage, because they still taught that, man. Like so many of the teachers at the school I went to, Serena and I went to the same school, like are those like classic Disney dudes, and they're still teaching how to do reference footage and stuff. So I have some hilarious, ridiculous footage in my phone from back when I was in college of like walking into a room and going like, like the silliest little like, because I'm trying to animate it on paper, like me walking across a room 5 times because I'm trying to get how it looks on camera or whatever. It was.
you gotta have
I
the right
think
reference.
it's truly sad, like you alluded to, that there's so little time to create those types of masterpieces now. It's like I think there's so much artists in the community want to create these beautiful old films that take 10 years, but that's not what pays money right now. And it's like so many people have like completely dedicated their lives. And then there's, like you even mentioned too, there's no institutional knowledge either. They turn over their entire staff for every film, and they hire some people back. They don't hire anybody back. Like they're going with what the cheapest choice is, and sometimes expertise is not cheap.
Yeah.
And even then, the people they are hiring are people who are like the top 1% of the top 1% of artists right now. People that I respect so like unbelievably much, who were like my teachers, are talking about how hard it is to get a job doing art right now. And it's like, these are insanely talented human beings with insane work ethics, because they're doing teaching jobs and other stuff. It's crazy that these experts are out of work when these gorgeous films used to take a whole, ink and paint team, which the whole ink and paint team at Disney was women for like the longest time, by the way. That's a really fun, not so fun animated history fact, is that like the whole ink and paint team was like usually all women, but again, women in animation not really getting the credit, and like the people don't know that.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Yeah, it's a strange time. I just recently worked on a logo design for some friends, and while I was doing that, they were also using AI to create other logos and things that they were doing, and it's just like the speed that they were able to produce like decent work, just like it just knocked it just blew me out of the water basically, and I came up with something that was original and nice and had a lot of subtle nuance and things like this, but it's like, again, that same thing where that true knowledge, the things that are the real value that years and years of experience add to something, are just kind of lost in this like, oh, we just need it fast kind of area.
Exactly. And there's been a lot of argument too, and this is the sad thing, is that not only the environmental impacts of AI, but also learning to do something just to do it goes out the window with AI. I would 1,000 times rather actually buy a sticker somebody made, and they're a new artist, and the sticker is like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many artists out there who are like, this is my first time making this, and I don't know if it's any good. I have bought so many things at festivals, at carnivals, at art shows, where it was like the first print they ever made, and it's on a blank piece of paper they got from the library, and it, they're not, it doesn't fit a frame, and I would rather buy that 150,000 times over a single AI image, because at least I feel like that person probably had a great time making that art, and I can trust that their idea is going to be original. Not not to mention too, it would be so nice to be able to use AI for the things that, like, cancer detection and et cetera, et cetera. Like, we're supposed to be using AI for things that are like not the fun part, like things that are, human beings have been making art since the beginning of time. Since we could write on a wall, we have used art to tell the world what's going on around us. And I just think it's very silly that there's a lot of folks who believe that a computer can just take away that.
Yeah, this has sparked an interesting bit of discussion in the chat. And I really do like this. I think that there's something to be said for the artisan revival that will happen as part of this. Like AI is going to decimate a lot for a minute, and
Absolutely.
then you will see this revival of handmade, sloppy, imperfect, unfinished things that people just really appreciate. If any of us have any money left, or there's
Right.
any
You
food
know,
left
if
to
we're, yeah.
sustain us, but yeah, I definitely see that coming as a natural, you know, swing back to all of this. You know, we see that records are really popular now. There's a lot of vinyl love for vinyl out there.
I bought my
After
car because it has a CD player in it. Like that was like one of the things that made me want to buy the car that I have.
that's hilarious.
Isn't
Wow,
that? I
wow,
know.
wow.
But what you were saying about art, actually, it brings up a really interesting point, like that pendulum swing. Um, I think it's fascinating to kind of look at trends in the art world. I mean, even, you know, back to with Warhol and like commercialization and mass printing was becoming very popular. So pop art was invented, and, you know, and as those things come back around, you're right. We are seeing such an, like, so many people want to take like a pottery class or like have a craft night with their friends. Serena and I highly encourage literally everybody to do this. I will not shut up until we're all having artisan parties. The friend just put together an art party for a Christmas. It was like a Yule party, and it was everybody bring some sort of Yuletide food. Everybody bring a talent or a craft to work on and just go. And people did like an open mic where they like played guitar for each other and did poetry and sang. And then like Serena made incense and gave that as like a Yule gift. And somebody brought freaking spiced mulled wine. And it was just one of those things where that would have been something we were doing 200 years ago. Like what, that party we had. I think it's just so cool to go analog and to play a record for you and your friends. Like do the thing that can't be on paper, or do the thing that can't be online. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like it is a fun pendulum shift to watch happen.
Well, yeah, I love that. I love that idea of having something like that that is like, let's get together and work on something together. You know,
Yes.
there's sort of that with especially around the holidays of like the let's build gingerbread houses or whatever.
Yeah.
But that opening it up to like bring something you want to work on in a space where people you know, love and support you in whatever you do, like it's such a fun idea. I'm absolutely gonna steal that.
Oh, please steal it. 1000% signed, sealed, delivered. Take it. Especially because that's actually, and I keep bringing up this event and that we, you know, organized, me even being on the show, which again, I can't thank you enough. This has been just so freaking amazing. But I think what was special to me about that event is 2 or 3 of the performers, and just so everyone knows, it was like a private event where you had to buy tickets ahead of time. It was like once you bought the tickets, you could come to the event. And that's when you knew about it. But it was so many performers who had never, I talked to 3 different performers from that event who had never performed in front of anyone before. And they were like recording quality good in many cases.
Yeah.
So it fascinates me, and I think I'm happy to see people returning to the arts as like a genuine way to connect with each other, and I would encourage anybody to do it.
Well, and on that, I mean, that blows me away. I didn't realize that because yeah, so much of it's, I mean, I didn't realize the first performer had started because I thought they were playing, you know, they were just playing music, you know.
I thought
like
so
off
too.
of a, you know, MP3 or whatever. But how beautiful is it just to be in queer spaces? This is sort of along the lines of a question I wanted to ask earlier. To see someone who has never performed in front of anyone ever before, there are 6 people sitting there watching, like it was a small audience, and they're making so much noise to cheer on this person. And it was just such a beautiful thing to see. Like those of us that were at our booths or kind of around, there were obviously more people than that, but like there were like the 6 people that were just sitting watching, dedicated, like rapt, and then the rest of us would also chime in and just to see how to see how well accepted they were and how our community shows up even in small numbers in such a big way was really beautiful.
And that's the type of enthusiasm. I mean, there's really no healing. I talked again to several people, several friends of mine who were at the event that were talking about how horrific this summer has been for them, like just how god awful this summer has been emotionally, whatever they're going through. It's been an extremely tough summer for a lot of my very close friends, and me and my family included. And the healing that takes place in all queer spaces where people can show up as they are. I talked to so many people who were like, yeah, I crashed out earlier today and almost wasn't going to come, but you know, I heard that so and so was going to be here, so I thought I'd be here. And they, so many people just talking about how it healed them to be around their community, where it doesn't matter if you can't talk right now, pull up a chair, you can sit while we're talking. You know, I would not, so I don't know if you know this, but I'm not a dancer. I don't dance, and that is my first dance performance I've ever done in a loud and queer space. And I would not have done it if it wasn't a queer space to begin with. Do you know what I mean? So same exact feeling.
Yeah. The only reason that I have now, I do karaoke publicly, and Raina in the chat does it as well in a way that has blown me away. But
well, we have to hear that sometime. That's got to be at the next event.
Yeah, we're going tomorrow 9 to 12. I will give you details if you'd like to come and check that out. It's very fun. But we do it at a straight cis bar now, and that never would have happened unless I'd had it was actually a completely trans space. We did it at a friend's house.
That's amazing.
With just a small gathering of like 10 trans people, and we just all get together and we sing together. And you know, that just sort of gets you to the place of having the courage of like, oh, I could actually do this. And then once you do your first like cis spot where like there's the normies around, where and you survive it, you're like, oh, I can just do this.
I can do anything.
I can just be me, and it's fine. Like it's a very cool experience. So no, I guess I did ask those two things. We've only got 2 minutes left.
That time has flown by.
It's flown by, and this has been the most unstructured bonus segment of the show I think I've ever done.
I'm so sorry. That's probably my fault.
It is not at all. It's been me blabbing and just being silly. We've had a lot of fun going on all the tangents.
Absolutely.
Just get some wine in and let the ADHD just run wild.
We're on the tangent bus.
Yeah. Now, I guess we talked about, you know, that weird sort of thing of trying to find yourself in the mirror and not seeing it until unexpected times. Talked about the community, and it's so interesting because I've been very disappointed in, even particularly in the trans community sometimes, with the gatekeeping and things that can happen. And you're just like, why are we of all people gatekeeping anything?
Exactly.
And that blows my mind. But then just the fact that the LGBT and specifically the trans community are just so welcoming. And here's something I wanted to touch on. There is a lot of intersectional identities between queer, gender, sexuality, but then also neurospiciness, divergence, as you know, some people like to call it, but just different ways of even experiencing or looking at the world. And it's beautiful to be in those places where you see autism unleashed,
absolutely,
ADHD tangents, and just wild creativity and things that don't make sense in quote unquote normal life sometimes set free, and just breathing in a space where everybody just is either that or is accepting of that because of shared experience. It's really beautiful, and that was such a wonderful event.
It really was. And I think especially like a huge shout out to Get Loud movement for always providing safe spaces at events as well, for exactly the type of situation you've described, that neurodivergent and queer and marginalized communities of all kinds, like BIPOC, are so freaking interconnected that Mo being able to have like a beanbag spot with earplugs available and like stim toys or chew toys, or like things that if you're overwhelmed, if there's a topic that was brought up and it's hard.
I missed the beanbag section. Damn it.
No, it wasn't at the this most recent
Oh,
one, but it was
okay.
at the first one. Don't worry, I know I was missing the beanbag
I
section
was like, how did I miss
too,
that?
but-
I never got to take part in the fire pit. For some reason, that kept like going out. But
Oh yes, I know. And it was because it was also everyone was in the jacuzzi too. So I think everyone just finally was like, "Fine, we're cold. We're gonna go to the jacuzzi." But yes, like Mo always creates like a neurodivergent and overstimulation safe space at their events, and I think that's like you don't get that at non-queer events because we know how bad it feels to be ostracized, and I feel like it's such a wonderful, special thing to be at intersectional events like that for that exact reason.
Well, as we wrap up here, I just want to take one more personal moment to say that I would really love to have your experience, to have you share something at the Transgender Day of Remembrance event coming up in November. So
That'd be wonderful,
let's stay in touch and talk about that.
Please.
Aspen, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and then having such a fun, like, random conversation afterwards. It's been great.
Absolutely. Anytime. And I want to say thank you again. Thank you for this show. Thank you for the Transverse. And I also just wanted to give a specific shout out to, again, my incredible, wonderful fiance and support system for being here today. Thank you, my beautiful friends. And to also the Black trans community, because I would not be as out or as proud without both trans femme and trans masc Black trans individuals and their bravery before me, especially the founders of the community. So.
So we talked about becoming Serena being in the chat. We also had Sad Croc 805, who's a close friend, Crystal Cat 73. Thank you all so much for coming and joining us and supporting Aspen on the show here. It's been wonderful to have you all. In the Twitch chat we had, or that was the Twitch chat. I'm sorry. In the YouTube chat we of course have Raina and Christina, members of the Transverse, Skelts. Charlotte, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you all for
Walk
having me.
Faster. Yeah. So thank you all so much for joining. Oh, and It's Alive. Thank you all so much for being here. Let's see, what do we have to plug for the rest of the week? I will actually not be able to do Creative Block tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific. An important meeting came up that I cannot move, so I'm actually going to move the show. We're going to do that Thursday, which is, let's see, on my calendar here, the 18th, from starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and then I can do the full 2 hours. So I'll be doing that from 3 to 5. So catch me Thursday on Creative Block. We won't be working on the Phoenix. I'm going to be going back to doing some drawing. I've got some pencils that were gifted to me that I'm considering using, or we talked about doing a frog in the forest using some oranges and some greens. Looking forward to that. So probably leaning towards the frog, but we'll see. We'll see. So it'll be a fun creative day. Aspen, I have taken you off screen, but just know that yeah, if you want to, you can come watch me do that on Thursday. And then, of course, our main show these days, which is Being Trans on Saturday at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. We have a lot of fun on that show, and we've gotten into answering lots of fun trans questions. So, and questions about the trans experience. If you have any, send them in to us in the YouTube chats, and we will collect those and answer them on the show. Otherwise, you can come and show up, and we'll answer 2 or 3 questions and then do our usual just sort of back and forth silly banter. Mediocre Poker, Raina and I will miss. I'm not sure if we're actually going to have the show because I think Amanda is going to come with us to an open house as well. So Creative Block Thursday, Being Trans on Saturday, and then Church of Vaultec on Sunday are our shows coming up this week. So stay tuned to the channel, and you'll see all that on the schedule there. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. We love you. We love your support, and we will see you on Thursday. Bye, everybody.